Hey, this is SportsSlaw with Lomas Brown, the pro.
And Deb Schneider, I'm the prof. And together, we're the pro and the prof. So how you doing today?
I'm good, Prof. How are you doing today?
Yeah. I just finished teaching a class, sports law. We were talking about everything that's happening in sports. It was like, we actually had Matt Friedman in class today. Matt is going to be joining us next week on the podcast on sports law. And just a little preview, we were talking about name, image, likeness. We were talking about sports gambling. We were talking about broadcasting, how everything has changed. And Matt is an expert in crisis management. And so I propose that perhaps teaching sports law this term with all this going on is an exercise in crisis management.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And man, Deb, it's just funny to me how all these things are taking place right now during this year. Like you said, name, image, likeness, sports betting has come on board. It's just so many things that we've had to transition to because of our situation with COVID. You know, it's just such a different world. And, you know, I think it's going to be a great show with, you know, some of the guests that we have on here today. We're going to talk about a lot of different things on the today's show.
Yes. And I think that you said the word that the theme of tonight's show is transitions.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's big. We've had some great shows. And tonight we are going to be talking with Jeff Sloan from Startup Nation.
Yes.
We're going to be talking with Will Tieman, who from the president CEO of Spartan Sports Network, also the voice of MSU basketball, men's basketball. Yes. Very, very exciting game the other night. And we're going to be talking with Marvin Allen, X Factor personal fitness, book your hero, an athlete who's
don't forget singer too. He does it all. He wears many hats.
I need a hero.
Yeah. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Doing good.
Doing great. Thank you.
Well, I think just to get started, little bit, you know, Jeff, Startup Nation, you are an entrepreneur. And I was looking at everything that you've done. I fan label, fantasy record label. You've got fan stable. You know, I mean, are you a serial entrepreneur?
Boy, I'll tell you, it's in my DNA, for better or for worse. I've been a lifelong entrepreneur. I was actually on my way at University of Michigan, then going on to law school, but got a patent on an invention of mine at the time, back in the this was late 80s, early 90s. Got a patent on it. Got a license to Masco, a big company here in town, automotive supplier, and they got it into market. And one of the best or worst things that ever could have happened to me is that I was earning a lot of royalties from that invention, and that set me on a course as being a lifelong entrepreneur. Instead of going to law school, I started a series of businesses, as you say, serial entrepreneur for sure.
Yeah. You know, I'm curious as to, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard there's more startup companies this year during the pandemic. I heard there's so many businesses that have started during this pandemic, this year-long pandemic that we've been in. Why is that, Jeff? Why do you think it's been a lot of businesses that have started up going through this pandemic?
Yeah, actually, Lomas, you're absolutely right. More businesses being started than in the history of the country. In the fourth quarter of 2020, more businesses were started than in any single quarter. I think the biggest reason for that is, I think, two things. One, people who lost their jobs during the pandemic, really looked in the mirror and said a couple of things. One, first, I need to find a solution here. And I don't know that there's going to be a job waiting for me, so I got to find a different solution. And the go-to solution then is to start a business of his or her own. So I think that's one thing. The other thing is, frankly, even if there was a job still available to someone, the fragility of job security these days, it's an oxymoron now. I mean, there really isn't job security like there used to be. You want job security, create it yourself. And so I think, times have really changed. A job for life is a thing of the past. And so I think just starting a business became a go-to answer for a lot of people.
So you have just basically introduced our next two people. Marvin, who's taken the entrepreneurial route, and you've created your own jobs. And then Will, Spartan Sports Network, I think you were saying that you were there for 30 years, a short-term gig that turned into a 30-year gig.
Yeah, and our story is a little different. I was a broadcast guy, and I got a fast start, and I was working at a company in Chicago. It was multimedia, and I was like I was the young guy. I was in charge of the production stuff, and we had a lot of people, and we did network programming all over the country. So I was sort of this is young guy in charge of this big group of people, and we were doing stuff everywhere. But it dawned on me that the industry was changing. And going back to what Jeff was saying in terms of job security, I'm looking around and I'm seeing guys, in their 50s, 60s, and they're worrying about their jobs. Maybe they're making too much or whatever. And I thought, people like ABC, NBC, CBS at the time, they were beginning to farm out production work. They didn't want to have the big staffs anymore. So they were beginning to say, hey, is there somebody that can do this little chunk for me? So what we did, I left the best job I've ever had, including the one I have now. I mean, I can't believe I left that job. But what we did was I thought, we could start a company right now and be that company that do the little pieces for the big company. And a couple things happened. By the way, my role model in all this was Dick Clark. And it's not because I wanted to be the oldest teenager in the world or talk about the latest songs. But as I looked at Dick's career, it just dawned on me that what he got to do was what he loved to do. And he got to do the projects he wanted to do. And he got to do it with the people he wanted to do it with. And I thought, if we could do that, how cool would that be? Every day you wake up and there's a new project and you're working with the people you like. And so we started that way back. And so, it was working fine. We own some radio stations now, and I married somebody that was crazy enough to believe all the nonsense I was spewing, and that was a good thing. But what happened with the Michigan State thing, we were doing several schools at the time, and we got a call from George Perlis, who was then the AD, and he just said, hey, can you fix my network? And we had a little conversation, and that was kind of that. We signed a 5-year deal. And then another thing happened. You have a family, and you're trying to get some stability, and then you decide maybe being home would be a good idea every now and then. And so as the Michigan State thing continued, what we did, we decided we were going to sever every business deal we had as the contracts expired that were outside the state of Michigan. Our radio stations are in Michigan. Obviously, Michigan State is in Michigan. So while I still travel a bunch, I'm home more than I'm not, even if I get home at 2 a.m. So that was kind of how it all started. I just wanted to get up and have a little freedom and a little independence. And like, Jeff saying, you can kind of make your own security. And I got to tell you what, we've been lucky. When I signed the 5-year deal with Michigan State, we were living in Illinois at the time. And Wendy goes, how long do you think this deal's going to last? I said, 5 years. That's how long these deals last. And here we are. We're still here. And I got my Rose Bowl cup. And we're getting ready to play Michigan in basketball tomorrow. So it just keeps going. And you know what? On my worst day, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's great. Not happy about that Rose Bowl. I believe that was against Stanford.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I was there. It was not a good game.
She's a Stanford Cardinal.
Yeah,
I'm a Cardinal. Okay, so
yeah, it's perspective.
It is perspective. Yeah. And Marvin, I need a hero.
You need a hero? All right, I got a hero for you right here.
Oh, good.
Boom.
Yeah.
So
you've got another interesting story about starting and former athlete who's really turned it into great business.
It's amazing. Like I'm a big kid at heart. I always say my inner kid is 10 still, because that around that time was like the most fun time of my life of my childhood, because it was full of creativity and innovation. And I used to make costumes. Like, I didn't even realize I was getting into these type of things back then. I was making my own costumes, and me and some friends, we would play Power Rangers in the backyard, and we would cut out construction paper. Cardboard and use duct tape and all kind of things, and spray paint and make our own costumes. And it's like, now I'm selling costumes and helmets and things like that for people, and then, playing football for so long, it kind of made it easier to transition to this, because I always used to joke and say my fitness goals were to be built like a superhero. So now I have to put on a costume that pretty much kind of looks like it's painted on. So I have to be in a certain type of shape, to be able to pull that look off, and to make it realistic, because I believe in the realism and providing kids with an opportunity to see their heroes up close, to where it feels like they jumped right out of the movie screen. And like you said, during the pandemic, like I first came up with the concept for Book Your Hero in 2019. I went with a group of friends to Hollow Weekend at Cedar Point, and on the way down, we were having brunch, and we just started talking, and I was talking about when Motor City Casino booked me to wear a Black Panther costume when the movie was out for their employees, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, I made the money back that I bought the costume for in just a few hours. I'm like, I need to do this for real. I'm like, yeah, we can call it Book Your Hero, and everybody at the table was just like, wait a minute, that's a good idea, and we just took it and ran with it. Then, of course, COVID-19 happened, so everything got delayed. But the entire time I was cultivating these ideas, working on graphics, working on the website, learning painting techniques, studying other cosplayers and things like that, and kind of building myself and using that same discipline, like we spoke about with being a former athlete. Taking that same kind of focus and discipline and transferring it into a different part of your life, and put it into Book Your Hero that whole 2020, and then finally a few months ago, we went ahead and went public, and then Channel 4 just did a story on my company a couple weeks ago. Yeah. It was really awesome.
Yeah, Jeff, let me ask you this. It's an adage, especially for athletes. They used to tell us, to have more than one egg in your basket, just in case that doesn't work out. Does that relate to entrepreneurs? Like, I see Marvin has a couple of different things. You think it's better to have more than one egg in your basket, or as an entrepreneur, what do you think is important to focus in on what you're doing?
I'll tell you, there's a lot of art in that. I don't know if there's an absolute. Then there's a constant tension between, having more than one egg in your basket, to use your analogy. But it's tough. I think in the early going, it might be good to maybe have a thing or two you're thinking about in the early going. But boy, as soon as you see that one's going to work, it's so critical to have focus. If you don't have focus, it's really hard to make one go and go well. So you can't be spread too thin. These things are hard. They take a lot of your energy and attention and creativity and passion and drive. Mm-hmm. And when you water it down across too many endeavors, you can get into trouble. I mean, I've been a serial entrepreneur. I run a company today that the Startup Nation Venture Group, part of what we do is we've got a portfolio of ventures that we're growing up. So, some of the ventures that Deb mentioned early on in the introductory comments, those are in our portfolio, but we have people who are on top of each of those projects, or they run teams that are full-time on each of them. So they've got full-time focus and dedication. I just don't see too many businesses that can succeed without that. So it's tough, Lums. I mean, it's, focus is critical.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Lo.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
One of the things that I'm hearing from all three of you is, and I know Lomas, you are also a bit of a serial entrepreneur, because I know you've got a lot of things going on too. But one of the things that I'm hearing from everybody is passion. Everybody seems to be so passionate about what they're doing. I mean, Lomas, you've got the broadcast, you've got your foundation. What do you think about the element of passion in this?
I know. I think it plays a lot, and just from hearing it in Marvin's voice when he was talking about some of the things that he was doing, and Marvin, I think athletics played a lot in that. Just like you made the comment about bringing that focus that you had in sports, just bringing that focus to the different endeavors that you're doing. I have to believe that plays a lot into the success that you're having now.
Yeah, it's just football is, football is such a microcosm of life,
Mm-hmm.
There's so many relevant lessons that you can take: attention to detail, finishing. I've been a trainer for 12 years, so it's like one thing I reiterate to my clients all the time. I'm like, finish the drill. I mean, you know that phrase,
Yep.
because they'll get tired, they'll burn out. I'm like, how are you going to get past the point you're and get stronger than you are now if you don't push past the point you're at now? You see what I'm saying? So even if it hurts, and it really helped me to keep focused on the different things. And like Jeff was saying, it's like being a serial entrepreneur is, I don't think it's necessarily that you purposely set out to become a serial entrepreneur. I think for me, it's like, okay, this was a great idea. Then next year, okay, this is a great idea also. So it's like, do I ignore one and just not do anything with it when I know it's a good idea that could possibly, I could turn into a lucrative business, or do I push both of them? And then if a third one pops up, because I'm a published author too. I wrote a book and it's on Amazon, and that did really well also, so it's like, but I started it's a book of short stories, and the first one I wrote was in 2004. So it's like I went all that time with football and music and life and stopped writing, and all of a sudden picked up my laptop again 6 years ago, and then I finally finished the book and I published it during the pandemic. And another thing, like you were saying, with the resurgence of new businesses starting during the pandemic, we were at home. So it's like, okay, what do you do all this time, months, that you're sitting at home? You can pick up a hobby, pick up a craft, start a business, And I think that's what a lot of people experience, out of sheer boredom, or they finally got time to focus on their creativity, their creative energy, without having to deal with, a lot of people working from home or weren't working at all. So it's like, okay, now I'm sitting at home for 24 hours. What am I going to do to fill my day? I'm running around with my kids, or if you don't have kids, you're literally just sitting there quarantined. So again, pick up a hobby, start a business. So for me, finally publishing my book, that was the main thing that I wanted to do after starting it so long ago. I think I felt like I owed it to myself to say, okay, you know what? I started this in 2004. Let me finish it. Let me finish the book and finally put it out and see what happens. And then my best friend, actually, he played at Michigan. We had this thing going into 2020 where, like, we're just going to throw everything against the wall, see what sticks, all our ideas, and, because why not? We're in a pandemic. Why not put everything out there just to see what happens? Because again, we're creating our own opportunity. We're creating opportunity for our children. My daughter's going to be working with Book Your Hero. I'm going to be paying her. It's going to be her little second job, so things like that, being able to put the next generation in a position to be successful and to teach her the business. That way, when I step back from it, she can run it, and hire other people and do parties and things like that. So it's a building block in a matter of just getting to. Okay, I'm sorry. One of my prints is failing right now. So that little clicking is in the background. My 3D printer is running, and I'm just like, oh, print's failing. But yeah, but that's pretty much what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one quick question for you. Then I have a question for Will.
Okay.
What's the name of your book?
Pardon me?
The name of your book, so we can all get it.
Oh, okay, it's for adults. I'm not gonna lie. It's a book of erotic short stories. It's called Boa Erotica.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
It's for adult couples,
Adults only.
BoaErotica.com. That's the website. It's on Amazon too. So if you just search Boa Erotica, it'll come up first in the pop up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Will, you've really done the focus. The focus.
Mm-hmm.
Taking everything and said it. Not all the eggs in one basket, as Lomas was saying, but really throwing the eggs out. Throwing the eggs out of the basket.
Yeah, and let me throw this in here before you answer that too, Will. Our industry has changed. I do radio for the Lions, and me and Deb have had this conversation. Do you think it's going back? Do you think we're going to stay? Because I didn't travel a lot this year. I did all my home and away games at Ford Field. So what do you think? You think that the networks have found the new way of doing things where we might not travel as much, or do you think it's going to get back to how it was?
Well, you're talking to somebody that, I come from two sides of this thing. Number one, I understand saving money. I understand the financial hit everybody's taking in our industry, in our country. Mm-hmm. But my gut feeling is, in my little world, I can't address the NFL. But in the Big Ten in basketball, we were the only crew that traveled every game. We did every game. If we went to Maryland, we went to Maryland. When we go to Michigan, we go to Michigan. We go to Rutgers, we went to Rutgers. And our decision was this, and it was a decision made by the basketball program at Tom Izzo. It was made by Michigan State University, by Fox Sports. And the decision was, if we test and do the protocol, which we do, I test every day. Mm-hmm. And so as long as we tested and did everything you're supposed to do, and we were not infected, why would we want to stay and call a game off a monitor when we can be there? Because doing it, it's better if you are there. There's no substitute.
Yes.
So we made a decision that, it might cost us a little more money to do it, but that's the right way to do it. And so personally, I think people could have traveled. We're living proof that we're at the end of the road now. We've got 2 more regular season games, and then we go to the Big Ten tournament. Who knows past that? But we managed to do it without incident. We're with the team. We're in somewhat of a semi-bubble, and we were at every location. And so I just think you make a decision corporately and also artistically, what is the best thing for the audience? And so that was our decision. That was what we thought we should do. And I think other people could have done that. I just think some people hid behind COVID as a way to save some money, and I understand it. One of our biggest challenges has been, not furloughing our employees, keeping people working, finding creative ways to not do that, because we're a family company. It's not like I'm in New York and I say lay off 500 people. We know the people, we know their family, we know their kids, so we do all that. And so you're talking to the wrong guy. I just think that there's a right and a wrong way to do things, and you explore every option. And that was the option we explored. And we traveled in football too. And so, and when I talked to some of my broadcast buddies, when the word first came out that in the Big Ten, you couldn't travel, that the conference said you couldn't and schools wouldn't accept you. Well, that was all nonsense. Nobody ever said that. And even in the Big Ten basketball tournament coming up, we got 14 member institutions. Maybe half will be in Indianapolis broadcasting live. The other half will be somewhere looking at a monitor. So as a listener, who would you rather listen to? I just think you just have an advantage being there. And I can't, if they had said do it from a monitor, obviously we'd have done that and we'd have done the best we could. But at the end of the day, we explored how to do it the way it should be done. And I got to tell you what, I'm proud of that. In that, you know how it is as a player and a broadcaster. Some days you're better than others, no matter how you try. But I just was so proud of what Tom Izzo endorsed. And by the way, Rutgers also traveled. And they traveled because their head coach, Steve Peichel, said, I don't care what the rights holders say, I want our guys there. And he made it happen. So, and the Rutgers guys, they got through fine. So it was kind of a little bit of everything. But I want to go back to the passion thing real quick. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine getting up in the morning and not being passionate about whatever you do. Mm-hmm. I had one job where I thought I wanted to shoot myself. It was a summer job. I worked at I'm from Southern Ohio, and I worked at a place called Body by Fisher. And my job was to take this little thing, and I hit a sander with it, and I just knocked some edges off and threw it in a barrel. That's what I did all day. Great pay, great summer pay. And I said, but I just was like, God, there's people that do this for their whole life. I could never do this. I mean, to get off my stool, I had to nick my finger to make a little blood so I could go talk to the nurses just to get off my stool. And so at that point, I just said, this is what I love. And we're lucky in that regard. I just can't imagine. And my brother's a union guy. He thinks it's horrible that I'm going to do a Sunday basketball game and I don't get time and a half. He thinks I got the worst job in the world. And my brother's always talking about retirement. I can't even think about retirement. Who wants to go down that road? Why would you give up what you love? So I guess it's all perspective and how you see things.
Right.
Okay. I've got a question for everybody. There's a little bit of a round table here. And Will, you gave me the idea. What was your first job? What was your first job?
my first job was McDonald's at outside of 12 Oaks.
Okay.
When I was 15 years old, and I was working that summer job, and then going to football camp at Michigan and Michigan State, and I met Coach Tomlin at Michigan's camp my senior year. But yeah, that was my McDonald's.
Well,
yeah. It was interesting.
Yeah.
And the funny part about it is my daughter's first job is at Chick-fil-A at 12 Oaks, like right across from McDonald's. So it was like, wow, you know.
Yeah, I grew up. I was born in Dayton, Ohio, so I was in a little suburb called Trotwood, Ohio, and so my first job was I delivered TV guides. That's a throwback, isn't it? A TV guide.
Yes.
And then a guy said, who did the TV guide thing, he said, we had an afternoon and morning paper. Do you want to do those things? So I had this whole little neighborhood where I had a monopoly. I had all the papers and I had TV guide. Whoa, I was rolling. And I bought a bike and everything. It was big time. Big time.
That's great. I remember that entrepreneurship in my DNA. I remember my first job was time to get a summer job at 16 or 17, and grew up in Flint, Michigan. And my father was a physician there, and grew up in Flint, and knew that I didn't want to be in the corporate environment. That's for sure. Flint had a way of teaching you that, making that perfectly clear. Didn't want to work for the man, as the saying goes. And so I wanted to do something in entrepreneurship right away. And so I got together with a friend. And at the time, there were HUD auctions of abandoned homes in Flint. They were selling them for, in some cases, a few $100s. We bought a house for a couple $1,000s, spent the summer fixing it up, and sold it at the end of the summer for a substantial return. After my buddy and I, we didn't really know what we were doing, but the home was much nicer, fresh paint, all the nice little window dressings, and we turned a nice profit on that. That really set me on my way.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, Lomas.
Yeah. Well, by the way, Will, I made the cover of the TV guide when I was with the Cleveland Browns in 1999, and I thought I had made it. Cover of TV guide, so that was big. But I grew up in Miami, and I worked at a furniture store. And the secret was I didn't know you had to keep yourself busy while nobody was there buying furniture. You just had to do something, whether it was sweeping up or not. So, after about 6 weeks, I got a pink slip because I wasn't keeping myself busy at that furniture store. So I didn't know that. I was a young lad. I thought I'd move a little furniture here and there and I could just hang around the rest of the day. The boss was like, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What about you, Deb?
I actually worked for a nursery, and my job was to weed.
Okay.
Oh.
I was 14. I got my working papers, and I got to sit on the ground and pull weeds for 8 hours a day.
Oh, wow.
I don't know, Will. That might have been. I don't know. You two might be in the tie. Which one was the most boring one? My goodness, pulling weeds or hitting that little thing. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty. Yeah. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
I think everybody's. I guess one other question. We talk about sports. We talk about athletes. Is it a natural transition for an athlete to go into business? Because it seems to me that, Marvin, as you're saying, I mean, the finish, that we've got the passion, the finish, the transitions, things are always changing. Is that a natural transition? I know a lot of athletes do go into business.
Yeah, it did seem for me kind of a seamless transition because I knew, like, I love the independence. I being a personal trainer, making my own schedule. And it's so gratifying when you take an idea and build it into something tangible that people want, you know, and to see people's reactions and say, hey, I want to come train with you. But, you know, 2 years ago, it just started like, hey, I think I want to be a personal trainer, you know, so to take an idea and build it all the way up until you're making money from it. It's a great feeling, you know, and I think with coming from football and going right into that, it was like, you know, as an athlete, of course, you know, you train with the team, but a lot of your workouts, you have to push yourself. You got to be really self-motivated, and being self-motivated definitely helps, you know, going through the ups and downs and the trials and tribulations and the difficulties that you could run into being an entrepreneur. So that's one thing. Like I said, sports. It taught me so much. And then, you know, my father's he coached with the Detroit Shock with Bill Laimbeer for a while. So I've always had that influence, you know, from when I was young, going all the way up until I got till Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I think Marvin's a living embodiment of what it means to transition from sports to business, and he's done it so seamlessly. You can see the passion is carried right over. I think you know, some of the key tenets of entrepreneurial success, or those things that entrepreneurs need in order to be successful, are common across the two things. You know, as an athlete, you've got to want to compete, you've got to want to win, you've got to be disciplined, you've got to have a good work ethic. You know, you've got to be a good team player. A lot of these things that you have to have as a successful athlete carried right over seamlessly into business the same way. And, you know, the passion, you can see it. I mean, Marvin's a perfect example.
Do you find a lot of athletes working with Startup Nation?
You know, we do. I mean, we find, you know, all kinds of walks of life and people wanting to start a business. You know, that's the beauty of entrepreneurship. You know, it really is something that people of all walks of life can embrace. And, you know, from athletes to, you know, to many others across the board. And we are seeing a huge amount of interest right now, you know, consistent with all these businesses being started at record numbers right now. It's unbelievable the amount of interest we're getting, and the businesses that we're getting, people want to start, range from literally an e-commerce business, whether it be on a platform like Amazon or eBay or Etsy, whatever it may be, Shopify, all the way on up to, you know, some pretty sophisticated businesses that get funded and backed by venture capital with, you know, big ideas, fast growth track. But it's really inspiring. It's exciting. Again, using that word passion, it's a world filled with passion and passionate people wanting to pursue their dreams and ideas and throw themselves at these things. It's a pretty exciting world to be in.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Will, have you thought about, I know you're in your dream job. Have you thought about a transition? Have you thought about after this? Have you even considered that? Has that even crossed your mind that once you are done with the broadcasting, is there anything that you're passionate about outside of the broadcasting?
Well, I don't like to fish, and I'm a horrible golfer, so I'm getting limited here. So, you know, no, it's we don't dig a ditch, and that part is good. But there's a time when it's time to be done, and it's time to move on to something else. And with us, our something else is owning the radio stations, radio station management and programming and that sort of thing. Because you get to a point where nobody has to tell you when it's been a good run. And so that's sort of what we did. And that was kind of in our plan way back. And I always wanted to, I didn't think it was possible that just a couple people could own anything in this day and age. It'd have to be a big corporation. But we came across a crazy banker and a guy that didn't want to sell his radio stations to a big company. And we made a deal. And it's worked out good. But that's probably the backup position. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're in a profession where you can go longer because, you know, as long as your brain's good and you can see and you don't sound bad, you know, I'm trying to imagine me working construction right now. That would be bad. Yeah. I would be gone quicker than you were from the furniture store.
Yeah, Will seems pretty content, so I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon.
That's awesome. Oh, Deb, do you see that question down there for Marvin?
I do. We've got a couple questions. Question for Marvin. the hardest costume that you've ever made?
Oh my God. Okay. So this one right here,
Show it to us.
my Mark 48, Mark 38 Iron Man from Avengers Endgame. It has 60 pieces. This is just a faceplate. Okay. This took 18 hours to print. The back of the helmet took around 40. So it's almost like a hurry up and wait thing. You want to set it up, but then you got to wait 3-4 days for it to finish, and then you got to sand it and prime it and paint it. I'm struggling, as you see during this podcast. A print failed, and I'm like, oh my God, I got to stop it because it's still spewing out the material that makes the process. Plus, and then there's the sizing everything to fit your body correctly in a software. I actually had to use algebra. I was like, oh my God, algebra. Trying to find out the percentage to increase the other parts by the first part I resize so everything will fit me. It's a very, very, very difficult process. But at the end, as you see, it's like, okay, it's awesome. So that making costumes, there's a horrible, boring part, and then there's an exciting part. It's like two ends of the spectrum. It's like, oh my God, I got to resize this and do math and this and that. And then I get to paint and put it on, So it goes from one extreme to the other. But definitely this Iron Man costume is my most difficult so far. Black Panther was pretty easy because there's less pieces. But Iron Man has so many moving parts. It's a lot. So, and then trying to match up the colors and things like that. So I'm looking forward. One customer purchased a Mandalorian costume from me. I'm actually looking forward to that one because after its size, it's only maybe 15 pieces. It's not a difficult job. But like I said, definitely my Iron Man costume is the most difficult one that I've encountered so far.
I know where I'm going for Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got a collectibles page. I can do anything, man. There's so many different possibilities. Actually, I just started Sub-Zero from the new Mortal Kombat movie. I found the file for that for his mask, and I'm making those now too. So that I'm excited to get those all sanded and painted and detailed so I can present them.
Yeah.
Wow. So we're talking math, we're talking 3D printing, we're talking computer skills, we're talking creativity, painting, priming, sanding. Yeah. Everything goes into
patience.
That.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely more than I was expecting. Like I hadn't like when I first came up, found out about 3D printing. I didn't know there was like, okay, you got to buy computer software, you got to do this and that, you got to do. So I actually have a tech support guy, and he really, really helps me, and I pick up things pretty quickly. So the stuff that he's been showing me, and then just fooling around with it myself. But it's a process, man, and it's challenging. And as a former athlete, we love challenges. We can't resist the challenge, So. Getting up every day, and I love feudal Japan, and one thing that was practicing that culture is every day they got up, they worked on their craft, whether it was sword making or archery or fishing. They did something every day to perfect their craft, and that's what I do with these costumes. Every day I'm working, I'm researching, I'm watching YouTube videos. And learning different painting techniques, learning different materials that I can use for sanding and things like that, just to get better at it until I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I got this down pat. Because right now, it's still trial and error, still prints failing, things like that. I'm still dealing with the ups and downs of getting into this whole craft.
Yeah. So Jeff, I'm sitting at home. I don't have anything to do. I'm locked in the house.
That's dangerous.
I watched this podcast tonight, and I said, you know what? I want to call Jeff, and I want to see what I can do about starting up a business. Can I just do that? Do I have to have an idea what I want to do? What if I'm just a person, just like you say, been trapped in the house? What do I do? And I'm watching this.
Startup Nation is a resource where we provide, facilitation, support, information, inspiration, hand-holding, sometimes coaching, whatever, a broad range of support and facilitation resources to foster entrepreneurship. But it's really, we don't come up with the idea for you. It's actually critical that the entrepreneur find his or her own idea in order to fuel that passion that then goes into whatever it is that they find, because you tend to gravitate to something that interests you, rather than it being something cast upon you. You know, typically when people just chase an idea because it's a good way to make money, it's not necessarily, you know, not necessarily it's not the best way to build a business for life. That's for sure. You know, everyone's expressed here how much they love doing what they're doing. There's an old adage that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I can tell from everyone that they hear that's been talking tonight, you know, people love what they're doing. It's clear. And then it becomes authentic and genuine. You embrace what you're doing. You don't look at it as work. You look at it as what you do and who you are, what you're all about. And that's where you get your greatest success. So I think it's important for an entrepreneur who's at home, whatever it may be, to research, look around, dig around, snoop around, check out what's selling. You know, Shopify has an amazing resource where they list every week, I believe this goes out in their blog, they list the hottest selling products out there. And you can peruse those things and say, hey, I'd love to sell that, or I'd love to sell this, or I'd love to do this or do that, whatever it may be. But doing your research, doing your homework, finding your way, getting inspired by a story of another entrepreneur's success, you know, that's the way to make it happen. And then, you know, come to places like Startup Nation to get that support you need, whether it's funding, guidance, contacts, resources. But the entrepreneur's got to bring the idea and embrace the idea in order for it to work.
Okay.
Monetize the passion.
Yeah, I hear we're running out of time here. I was told 30 minutes. We're at 40 already. So
yeah, I got one important question. One last question for Will. Is it going to happen, Will? I mean, a tournament without Tom Izzo in it. I mean, that doesn't seem like a tournament. I mean, you talking about some blue bloods, Michigan State. I think Duke is kind of on the bubble. And is it? Do you feel it? What do you feel? What's in the heart? Talk to me.
I think Michigan State's going to be in.
Okay.
And of course, when you get to this one, my family's very concerned that they're going to have me home earlier than usual. That's bothering them. They're used to having a break in March. But here's what I think. The Big Ten is really, really good, and that's helping everybody. The sample size is small. And what Coach has done is he's done what he would have done had we had a full summer workouts and we had a full non-conference schedule. He had a young ball club and he had to find ways to get it done, and he's done that. The only thing standing in his way right now is fatigue. We're playing a game every other day now. And when we played the other night against Indiana, it had to be the ugliest game in the history of basketball because both ball clubs were so tired. One of our guys, Josh Langford, literally was so exhausted they had to help him to the locker room after the game. I mean, that's what we're talking about now. And so, but if I put aside all my emotion, and I just can't believe a tournament could be going on without Tom Izzo in Michigan State. And but here's why I think they've earned the right. They've gotten better, which is always a big. But think about this sequence: at Indiana win, play number 5 Illinois win, a team that just destroyed Michigan, who's awfully good.
Yes.
Next up, 24 hours later, we played number 4 Ohio State, beat them. Got tripped up in Maryland because we just were kind of dog-tired. Beat Indiana again. So the people that deal with the numbers and all these things said if Michigan State got to 8 conference wins because of the strength of the conference, that could do it. Well, we're at 8 right now. If somehow in the next couple of days here, it's a Thursday at Michigan, Sunday at Michigan State, the 2 teams play. If MSU can upset Michigan one time, then it's a lock. We go to the Big Ten tournament, pick up 1 win, I think we're in. Because at the end of the day, the competitive level has been incredible. And I think people also will give teams like Michigan State a little break because Izzo wanted to make sure he played all 20 conference games. He thought that was important. And he scheduled crazy to make sure that got done. To his detriment, to be honest with you. He could have done what some other guys did and said, I'm not going to play that many games. I'll play 18. But that isn't how he rolls. The schedule was for 20, and he was going to play 20, and that's what we've done. So my heart says, I hope so, but my brain says, I think so. How can they have a tournament without Michigan State? Come on.
Okay, I've got one last very quick question for everybody. if there was one piece of advice that you wish you were given when you first started, what would that be? I'm making everybody roll their eyes.
Yeah, one piece of advice.
Well, I'll jump in quickly, help everybody out here. You moved along. I told you I was on my way to law school. I was on my way to law school because my parents told me, go to law school, go to medical school, do something like that. And you know what? I wasn't into it. I really wasn't into it. And when I invented this product and got a patent on it, got it licensed, got it into the industry and started making money, I was so jazzed by that. And, I'll tell you, it gets back to what we've all been saying tonight. You got to do what you love. You really got to do what you love. Pursue what you love first, and the rest kind of fall into place. Okay,
so pursue what you love.
Yeah, I was going to say that, follow your own path or similar, to what he said. I think people get so used to what everybody else does, following the quote unquote American dream and doing things that same way that they miss out on their true calling, and my advice to people would be to figure out what makes you happy and monetize it. Take a passion, what you're passionate about, take your ideas and take your dreams and just 100 miles an hour, go for it.
That's
that leap, the entrepreneurial leap of faith that we've all taken. You got to take that leap of faith.
I mean, I was so naive to everything. I didn't know what to ask anybody. My first TV job, I was a sports guy, right? And to get to the sports/news office, I would walk by the general manager's office every day. And I'd look in and Mr. Shively being there and I go, what's that guy do all day? He sits at his desk. Well, now I know what he did. And I had the better job of the two, no doubt. But it's pretty interesting. It was like you talk about the passion. I said, let's just do this thing. I think it's sound. But at the end of the day, when I got into it, I went, wow, I never thought about that. Gee whiz, wish I had thought about that thing. And then I was so lucky, and I bet you other guys were too. When you came across something that kind of threw you off a little bit, you had enough support from friends and people in your business that they helped you, because you weren't asking them to do anything for you. You're just trying to understand the best path. And I was so lucky that way. I've had guys in our darkest hour say, did you ever think about this, and help us out? So, I didn't know what to ask because I didn't know enough, but I had a plan, I had an idea, and I knew enough, and I had enough friends and help. And here we are. All these years later, people say, well, what do you sell? What do you market? Air. What? You don't make cars? No, I mean air. It's just air. And who can make a living doing that? It's crazy, isn't it? Air, just air. Nothing there. Touch it. There it is.
I agree with you on that one. Surrounding yourself with people that are for you and that support you, it just reminds me of all 2020. My friends, my family, people that I told about Book Your Hero, like, hey, I got this idea for this company. What do you think? They're like, oh my God, that's amazing. Do it. So it's like people giving you that extra motivation, that extra energy, that positive reinforcement to say, do it. You can do it. This is awesome. Go move forward. Don't stop. I've heard that so much. Don't stop. Just finish it. Go through with it. Do it. It's amazing. So surrounding yourself with that good support circle and learning. Also, what I tell people, man, learn from people's victories and their failures, because you can learn a lot from both.
I did learn one thing. You got to figure out how to get revenue.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That part.
That's important.
Yeah, revenue is important.
Yeah.
Okay. And Lomas, one piece of advice?
I just say keep your mind open to everything. Don't close your mind to any ideas. At least hear it out. That's what I always try to tell my kids. Just hear it out. You just never know. Don't just close your mind or come in with a perceived way that you think is going to be. Just leave your mind open to any and every possibility.
Oh, everybody's got great advice. Everybody's got great advice. And I would, my piece of advice would be that you're in control of your career and that, it's not about somebody else. You don't have to keep up with somebody else. It's about what you're passionate about.
I like
And with that, I think we're going to end the show, but we do have an after show where we're all going to get a little more casual, chat about a few things.
That sounds like a club. It sounds like we're going to the club now.
Well, social hour.
It's a social hour, secret social hour. But, yeah, and check us out. We are now on Spotify. We're on SoundCloud. We are, check us out on SportsSlaw.com. And we hope that everybody's enjoyed this. And thank you to all of our guests. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. You're welcome.
Good to be with you guys.
Oh boy, Marvin, that does not look good.
Well, oh no, it froze. I was looking at the messages that were in the chat room.
Marvin, I'm gonna call you about that 3D printing too, because
Okay.
I'm doing something with that. So yeah, we definitely need to talk. We definitely need to talk about that. So
Yeah.
Cool.
Marvin, now you're making a house call.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
That was really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it was. It was amazing. It was amazing.
I was, I'm learning so much from everybody.
Yeah. No, I didn't know that, Will, with that's why I asked you that question as far as did you guys travel or not? Because and I think it was, like you were saying, I think it was dependent on the individual teams too.
Yeah.
Because we heard that some radio personnel did travel with some of the professional teams, but they just chose, WJR just chose for us not to travel the whole year. So I don't know if that's, I don't know now that the Lions have switched and they're going to 97-1, I don't know, they may have a different philosophy, but I just wanted to know what happened with you guys and just kind of get your opinion on that.
Yeah, and it was interesting because basketball got a break because football, we were still trying to figure out what this thing was.
Yep.
And
Every
by the
home
time-
game.
Yeah,
Every
by the
home
time
game.
basketball got here, people had testing was better, tracing was better.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to control what we were doing more. And so there was a break there. But I was talking to some of our guys at the other schools, and they're telling me that we were told that the Big Ten won't let you go anywhere, which was total nonsense. Big Ten never said that. Iowa never said we couldn't go to Iowa. But yet, when we went to Purdue to do that game, the Purdue guys were telling me only 2 radios had been there all year, Valparaiso and us. And, of course, this weekend, Indiana will drive up, and they'll do that game from Mackey Arena. But, yeah, it was something that we decided collectively it was the way to go as long as we did what we had to do. And the other thing was kind of fun with my family. I said, guys, we got to be careful what we do because I can't work if I don't stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were on board with it too, which was good.
Yeah.
So they want us to win all the games and have the season over so they can go do something.
Yeah.
And get out of the house maybe a little bit. But I don't know. I'm really proud of what our guys did. But that's Izzo. And see, I got so lucky getting to hang out with a guy like that. I mean, I just fell into paradise in some regards.
Yeah.
Because we've had chances to get out of here with other jobs and we love it here. Why would we leave? I mean, they haven't thrown us out yet, so that's a good thing. But there's always tomorrow. Maybe I'll say something wrong and that'll be all over. I don't know.
Also, all the home games that we did for MSU football, me and Will were talking like every other day because we had to set up stuff differently for like the pregame. They had to set up their studios different for people that stay away from each other.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty crazy.
I got to know Will a little bit better this year because we had to figure stuff out. That's the biggest thing about 2020. We had to figure everything out, especially for you, Lomas, doing all the games. That was like we had to do stuff on StreamYard. You guys had to call a game from a different from that.
It sucked.
Yeah, I know.
Especially interviews virtually. It's
terrible. You had to do the coaches thing by talking to him through a Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's he usually goes down into the locker room.
Yeah. And we've been lucky because you test every day, you can go see a practice. You can go talk to a guy.
Right.
But yet protocol says I can be on an airplane one seat behind Izzo flying to Maryland, but we have to do our interview on Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's been crazy. And our folks think in basketball, we'll be back to full houses next year, maybe wearing masks, but they expect to be able to have people back in.
Well, you see football. Who was that? Somebody won't. Levar, who was that wants the stadiums full next year for football? There was somebody talking about that. I'm talking about they want 90,000 in the.
I heard that. I was actually surprised with the bowl games this year. You know, even the NFL playoffs. It was a lot of like Kansas City. They had a lot of fans in the stands. I was like, wow.
How about the Notre Dame game where everybody stormed the field?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just remember the Florida coach.
That was headline because all those kids had to stay in their dorms after.
Yeah, I'm sure they were all. Jeez, yeah, that was crazy.
But
to answer your question, Lomas, is Texas A&M. That was the game where the Florida coach said he knew because the ground was. He was on the ground. He was like the rafters were shaking so bad. I felt the ground shake. He said it had to be at least 60,000 in that stadium. And then when the camera, as soon as he said that, ESPN went to the camera, and that stadium was packed. That's when Texas A&M beat Florida, but that stadium was packed.
Yeah. Now Texas is wide open. Now the governor, The governor opened the state.
Yeah, give it about 3 weeks. We'll see what happens.
I know. I'm like, man. I mean, wide open, man. This is, I mean,
I have a question for Marvin. Okay, with the mask thing, have you walked into a store fully dressed to go shopping with a superhero?
Wait a minute. It's so funny you say that. During the pandemic, I don't know if you guys saw that, but people were just walking around in costumes.
Yes.
And I saw so many Facebook posts like during the height of the stay-at-home order where people were literally in, Star Wars costumes and all these different stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, why not me? So a friend of mine asked me to watch her daughter. And I was like, okay, I was thinking about going to the store, going grocery shopping or whatever. I was like, you know what? Tell her to wear a costume because she was like 9 or 10 years old.
I remember.
And we went to Meijer and I wore my full Deadpool costume and it was like, it was hilarious. First of all, I'm like, nobody's going to know it's me because I got a full, Deadpool mask on. But we walked around, people were taking pictures and it was like, oh my God, it was a lot of fun and it was funny. So it was almost kind of like a release of the stress of being at home for so many weeks, because, a lot of people haven't really had an opportunity to experience real cabin fever, because we're going to work, we're going to work out, picking up the kids from school. We're never at home for extended periods of time like that. So for me, it was like, oh my God, let me go outside, just kind of like cut loose a little bit, put on this costume and pose with people and do different stuff and just have fun, And it was like therapy almost. But yeah, that was the one time I did just put on the costume randomly and just go out somewhere.
Deb, you look so familiar to me, and I don't know why.
Oh, I don't know.
I've been racking my brain to think it's like
MSU.
Huh? I teach at MSU. I teach sports law at MSU. But I don't think
maybe I bumped into you once. I don't know.
I know you look familiar too, and I'm not sure why. Yeah.
You guys have probably seen each other because I'll forget names. I got to use names twice before they stick, but faces I don't forget. So I'm sure you guys have crossed paths at some point.
Yeah, it's just I've been thinking, what? I know I've met her somewhere.
I have somebody in common.
Yeah.
Bill Szymanski.
I know the name.
Of course you do. He was in broadcast. He was a helicopter guy for WJR for years and years.
Man.
Yep. Actually, I'm friends with him on Facebook, and my dad knew him.
Okay. Well, he was over at dinner at my house last night.
Oh.
Everybody's vaccinated, by the way.
Well, since we got Will talking, and I'm not a Michigan State guy by any means, but I think Michigan State is in because of the two teams that messed up their chances. Xavier and Michigan State have similar resumes. Xavier lost to Georgetown yesterday. That's a bad loss. And Seton Hall just lost to UConn tonight. So with them two messing up, and I don't see Xavier or Seton Hall carrying big wins in their individual tournaments. As long as Michigan State has a decent Big Ten tournament, I think they're locked in. Xavier was the one that mirrored to, if you had a blind resume, Xavier and State were the same. But like I said, that Georgetown loss, they're going to be off the bubble. And
if we lose to Michigan, we're supposed to lose to Michigan.
Correct.
So if it's a competitive game, you go, well, they just played the number 2 team in the country and they held their own. Now that kind of thinking doesn't work well in our camp because Izzo is crazy enough to think we're going to win Thursday.
Yeah,
what's wrong with that guy? Huh?
Yeah. Well, how Michigan got smacked around last night? They got smacked around by Illinois. So you just never know. You know?
Yeah, isn't it weird? They've lost 2 times all year. They've had a wonderful season, but the 2 losses have been big.
Terrible, yes. You're right.
And you're like, wow, how could you lose so big?
I mean, what was the margin?
They lost by 23 last.
Yeah, they got
college ball.
Huge.
Wow.
But with their best player being out, I think Michigan thought they were just going to run them over. Illinois' best player was out with a facial injury.
Yeah.
And Jawan said it. He was just like, we had a little, once he heard 2 players, such and such is not playing. Jawan was like, no, that's not the mentality to have. And they went out there and they got smacked. Smacked bad.
They did.
So how does Michigan get a freshman that's 21 years old? How does that work? I want to know how that works.
It's some people in Memphis complaining about the same thing because Penny Hardaway has a sophomore that's 24 years old. He didn't start playing. He played JUCO ball. Then he got kicked out of JUCO. Then he went back. And he's 24 years old as a sophomore. I didn't know they were talking about it this weekend when I was watching college basketball, and he was like, "Not trying to complain."
Like the movie Waterboy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I tell you what, with this COVID, and there we were talking about how they, this one guy, he wants to start a 13th year, because it's still the 12th grade, a 13th grade, because these kids now who have been affected by not being able to be freshmen in school because of scholarships and all that, you might have older freshmen coming in, or
have a 13th year.
It's crazy how the pandemic has changed the scope of sports overall. We don't know, like you said, they might have to add a 13th year, eligibility rules changing. We don't know how this is going to affect athletics, a year from now, 2 years from now, or whenever the pandemic finally ends and we can go back to normalcy. It's crazy. Like I guess we got so content and so comfortable in our normal everyday lives, and you just take that and turn it on its head. It's just like it's crazy how much life has changed. Like I've never been nervous about getting in the elevator with other people. And it's like now, I live downtown. So it's like now when I see a bunch of people get on the elevator, I'll take the next one. You know what I'm saying? Like, but before it was just like, okay, whatever, make room,
Yeah.
But he could be Spider-Man and go down the side of his building.
Or just cross the side of the building. I wish.
I don't think we're ever going to be back in sports to what we were before, because we've got this name, image, likeness thing coming out. And Will, you probably have a lot to say about that.
Oh, yeah.
Same here.
Sports gambling, that changes everything. Any one of those would change it. You throw COVID in and you throw the fact that you've got a crazy transfer portal right now. You've got kids who are they're just going to miss out. They're the seniors or the freshmen, and there's just no room unless you change sports. So I just don't see that we're ever going to be back to what we were. We may be better than we were in some ways, but.
And you also got people that were born a man, want to play in a women's sport.
Okay. You know what? I'm all about equality, but my thing is this. If you are genetically a man, you have the strength, the endurance, it's not fair. It's just not fair to me.
I'm telling you, that's going to be coming up though, because more and more. I mean,
yeah, but
they're
breaking women's records. You know, women getting their skulls shattered in MMA. Yeah. You know, track records being broken. You know, smashed by trans. It's just not fair. It's like, okay, you want to be. How about this? How about you make a league or a team for transgender people? Mm-hmm. You know, so they can compete against each other. It'll be more fair that way. But to go into a women's league,
people saying that's not right.
It's 2021. It's always going to be somebody that's against whatever. Everybody's going to have something to say about something. Oh, it's not fair. Oh, they should be included. You know, different sides of the fence. But when you come down to the science of sports, men are stronger than women in most cases. They're faster, you know. So it's like it's not fair to put a man in a 100-meter dash with a bunch of women. He's going to win, or she, or you know. I mean, I want to be politically correct, but that's just the reality of it. You know, I don't think it's fair. Like, I'll be upset if my daughter plays. She's a sophomore. She plays varsity basketball. If she gets dunked on by a guy, you know, in a game, I'm like,
someone's coming out of the stands.
You know, exactly. Like, what is this? You know, it's I don't know. That's just how I feel about it, man.
Yeah. I mean, Dr. Seuss just got blasted.
I was just gonna say that.
What the heck?
Mr. Potato Head. It's just Potato Head now. You know,
I know. Come on, my wife told me that. My wife told me that. She was like, "Why don't we make a Miss Potato Head?" Yeah, it can't be Mr. Potato Head. It's just got to be Potato Head now. Yeah,
but there's a Mrs. Potato Head. Yeah. So I'm like, what are you mad about?
Where did Mr. Potato Head come from? I don't know. He's just Potato Head now.
The factory. Yeah. And then the player's likeness.
But still,
you remember NCAA football? They stopped at 2014.
Yeah,
you know, because
that's Levar. That's Levar big thing right there.
Listen, I don't understand why they can't remaster 2014. It's already been made. Already made money on it and everything.
So bro, listen, I still play my NCAA 14,
I do too.
I still play it. I love NCAA. You know, and it's crazy because I was on 2001. And it's like, you know, you play a game and you see yourself on it, but you're not getting anything for that, knowing they're selling millions of copies all around the world. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's like when they first came out and they were saying, you know, they're going to pay players for their likenesses. Okay, I was a little jealous, not going to lie, but I was happy for the ball players, no matter what the sport is. You know, it's like the universities and the networks are making all this money off the kids, but then the kids, you know, they don't see anything for it. So it's like, okay, you're going to put my jersey, my likeness, and when on NCAA 2001, when I was on it, it didn't have my name, but it was me. Mm-hmm. You know, it was my height. They went to the roster and took everything. My height, they changed the hometown. He looked like me. He had my speed, you know, so I was like, but did I see anything for it? Mm-hmm. No, you know, and now that the kids are going to get paid for it, you know, I'm just like, but then of course, now you got dealing with the pandemics. Now they're going to get hurt in other ways.
Now that's a question for Will now. So what's the buzz about that around MSU right now? About any of that? Or are you hearing it?
Are you kidding me? They could destroy college athletics.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think that?
Well, because I'll say two things and I'll do the least one and back up. A senator from Kansas introduced a bill to the Senate, which basically said, as a student athlete, you're allowed to come and go as you please, go to the draft or pull out of the draft, cut any side deal you want with any company, do whatever you want to do. And that's okay, I guess, except this senator did not talk to one person in intercollegiate athletics, didn't talk to one coach, not one AD, not one person at the NCAA. So this guy's coming up with all this crazy stuff. It won't pass, but he never talked to anybody that's in the trenches. And so here's why there's a handful of people that can benefit from this, but here's the rub. It has nothing to do with you getting money for the game. I mean, that's a logical thing, right? But we passed that. We're not logical anymore. So now what they've done, they've said, hey, you're going to go to the University of Cincinnati. And but there's some other schools who want to talk to you. So you're getting ready to sign with Cincinnati, and here comes University of Kentucky, just down the road, and they go, hey, Marvin, if you come play with us, I can get you a deal with the local canning company, and you can endorse their product, and you'll get $20,000 a year, $100,000 a year. And let's up it a little bit. Let's take a guy like Zion, and let's take the University of Oregon, where they're bankrolled by Nike. Coach says to the head of Nike, goes to Phil Knight and goes, hey, I want Marvin on our basketball team. So I go to you and I say, here's the deal. Get a full ride, blah, blah, blah. But I'll get you a name and likeness deal with Nike for 10 years for $5 million. That's where it's heading. So what you're going to do, that's the rub. Because there has to be some limits to this. There's fair play, and then there's it's going to ramp up cheating. It's just And then the other thing, some of these people think they should get a cut of the gate. Okay, well, if you get a cut of the gate, you got daughters. Does she maybe want to play college athletics? Well, football and basketball fund all that stuff. Yep. The NCAA basketball tournament funds women's basketball, swimming, all those kinds of things. So if we start saying, okay, you football guys drive the bus, there's no question about it. And maybe coaches make too much. I don't think Saban's worth what he makes, even though he's the best in the country. They could always put a cap on that if they wanted to. But at the end of the day, if they go down that road, then opportunities for the non-rev sports, men and women, will be gone. We'll be down to a few sports. And then let's take Central Michigan, for example, and those kind of programs. Right now, CMU has dropped so many programs, they don't qualify to be a Division I program anymore, but they got a waiver.
Wow.
Now, those people really get clobbered. And so at the end of the day, you got to look at this whole big picture and try to find something fair. Or you could dig your feet in the heels and do this. Say, look, here's the deal. You get a full ride, and they get a lot of benefits. They get a lot of perks. And you say, this is simple, guys. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. We're not making you do this. You don't have to come here to school here. You don't have to do anything. Here's our deal. Take it or leave it. Okay. I got one more kid in college right now. I wish somebody would come to her and say, you want a full ride? Oh, shit. It's good. And you want to use her name in a video game? Don't care. It's okay with me. And so I think we've lost sight of what this is, big picture. And unfortunately, the NCAA won't take a stand. They're trying to take the easy way out by leaning on the federal government. And somebody's got to have the courage to say there's a middle ground that makes sense for everybody. But if they if this guy, like this senator from Kansas, if that bill was to pass, we don't have intercollegiate athletics it won't even look like. It'll be a zoo.
Well,
all the powerhouses, all the, like you said, the Texas, the Michigan, Florida, big schools. It will create kind of like almost like you see Alabama and Ohio State in the tournament every year. It'll be like that. We'll see the same schools because those schools with the big budgets will be able to have a better recruiting. So I do understand how it could destroy a lot of the smaller schools, and there needs to be like like you said, a middle ground to where it'll be fair for smaller schools that can still compete and they can still compete in recruiting.
But I'm going to go full professor on you here. You've got 6 bills.
You're in trouble.
I'm teaching this tomorrow. You got 6 bills pending in Congress right now on this. 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans. You've also got you've got the NCAA that has their version of the bill. So we're looking at Congress to create some kind of law. Meanwhile, you have 30-some states that have already passed or have pending legislation on name, image, likeness, which is all a state law right because it's all publicity rights. And over and above that, you've got the Alston case, which is going to be heard by the Supreme Court at the end of the month. Expect a decision by June, and that's a lot of the pay for play. So you've got the court system, the legislature, all the different states all weighing in on this, plus the NCAA, and it's really their rules that we're now turning into laws. And nobody quite knows where it's going to go. And then, Will, to your point, when you're talking about the sports, men's football and men's basketball, they fund everything. We have Title IX. So what are we going to have? 2 women's sports and 2 men's sports?
Maybe.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that a good thing? I don't think so.
No.
My
daughter competitive swims. That would be out the window too.
Yeah, I'm for participation trophies. I think as many people as possible should be participating in athletics because they can all leave athletics and become serial entrepreneurs like everybody here.
I mean, we may be the only program that had a walk-on basketball player that's now a billionaire. Matt Ishbia, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad. When I met him, he was just a goofy little kid. Now he's a billionaire. What did I do wrong?
Talking about United Shore. United Shore.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
And but there's an opportunity for him, and these stories are all over the place. And to take those opportunities away it's something wrong with that. And I asked Izzo, I said, Tom is on a lot of committees. He loves basketball. Now, I don't want you to think he's Mother Teresa because he's not that. But he really cares about his sport. And I could go hours and tell you all the things he's done for people that he does not want anybody to know about it because he's not a publicity guy in the truest sense. But at the end of the whole thing, I did ask him, I said, you're kind of a big deal. You're a high profile guy. Has anybody called you on any of this name and likeness stuff outside of somebody from campus? And the answer was no.
Wow.
I mean, how could you not seek out a guy who was the president of the Basketball Coaches Association, obviously a Hall of Famer? I mean, he's been around. He's done a lot of stuff. I think he'd be good counsel, no matter what he says. See what he thinks.
Well,
he deals with these kids and these families.
They're not asking.
No.
Hey, Will. So if we do another live podcast about the likeness and all that, are you able to come on if you're available?
Yeah.
Okay.
How about next week?
Maybe bad because I'm hoping we're involved in postseason play up to our neck. I hope.
I know Matt Friedman is going to be talking about that.
Is he?
We'll talk about that a little bit tonight, but we can do more than one.
Yeah. No, this could be part 1, part 2, part 3.
Oh, there's so much going on. I mean,
and even Marvin, even you too. I mean, you are, you're not just not my ex, but my teammate, and I blocked for him. I knocked the guy.
I scored a lot of touchdowns because of Ray's blocking.
Yeah, he goes, come on, you old man, get going.
So, Deb, what do we do? Michigan's passed a law for this. Florida's got one. California's got one, but they're all different.
Yep.
So what do we do?
So there's no uniformity between all the
no,
nothing.
Because publicity rights are all state law rights, and every legislature is trying to get ahead. California started it, and Florida was the first one I think that's going into effect. So there's zero uniformity.
The University of Washington lost, and I know this because 2 of my friends coach on that staff. The University of Washington, as soon as that law was announced in California, they lost 3 commits in a 1 week span. 2 of them cats said they was going to USC, and the other guy said it was either going to be California or he was going to try to go to the University of Florida. I know I probably make you happy. Just like that. As soon as California said it, they were like, decommit.
Yeah, but the other piece of that puzzle is, though, right now we're up to like 35 states who have legislation or pending legislation. The other piece of that is, the big guys are going to go and do exactly what you're talking about, Will. But the mediocre and the younger people might go to some of the smaller colleges because they can represent the car dealership or they can get a deal with, the local supermarket or something. So you might get a little more parity in that area. Which might be a kind of interesting thing. Smaller schools out in the middle of nowhere Because how many people are going to be able to be supported by a USC as compared to, something in Iowa?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But listen to this, Marvin. So in Florida, in high school, you could go to one high school and play football, and you can transfer and go to another high school. If you were a two-sport athlete, you could go to another high school and play basketball.
The very same school year?
Yeah, the very same school year. So that's in Florida. That's in high school. You could do that in high school down there in Florida. So so you could pick the best football school down there. You could attend that. And then, like I said, if you played basketball, you could pick the best basketball high school down there, and you can attend that. So that's
you want to hear something crazy? Now. I didn't play football my senior year of high school because I transferred from Blue Ridge in Virginia back to Detroit and to Mumford, and the MHSAA ruled me ineligible.
Yeah. They're tough here.
So I missed my senior year.
Yeah.
Luckily, I did enough my junior year to get a scholarship, but that's wow. You can so literally you can just hop from school to school.
Yeah, you can. Isn't that crazy?
That's insane.
Yes. That's
how long has that been in effect?
Probably like the last year or so. I think it happened right before the pandemic. So you might be talking 2 years.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, man. That's how it is down there.
Crazy. And you know what? You hear stuff like that, and you think, and you kind of it hits hard because I missed my senior year, and now these kids are jumping from school to school.
Yeah. I know down in Florida it's like that. So
it's not like that in VA because no one knows people didn't try that for AAU. AAU coaches in Tidewater. Marvin, I'm from Hampton, Virginia. You said Blue Ridge, so I'm down on the peninsula.
Oh, okay.
AAU coaches have been like, hey, I know you played for Gloucester in football. Why don't you come to this school next year? And other AAU coaches be dropping down. It's like, nope. He go to Gloucester, that's where he gonna be. He transfer somewhere else. We'll make sure he don't play for a whole year, and they be all over that.
Yeah.
Hey guys,
wow!
I think it's time to wrap it up. I got a call with Rob Parker in a minute.
Tell him I say hey when you talk to him.
Yeah, he started his new.
What hadn't he started? What hasn't Rob started, man? Rob got a barbershop.
But he was on the air. And the thing is, he's launching this new baseball website that I'm designing for him. And it's like he puts my logo everywhere. He puts all my artwork on Channel 7, stuff on Fox Sports now. I mean, it's like going.
That's cool.
You talk about those Jamaicans that have like 9 million jobs. Yeah. That's Rob. That is Rob Parker.
Before we go, Mr. Will, I heard you say Michigan had a 21-year-old, but hasn't Jeremy Langford been there for a long time?
Yeah, he's 37, but that's okay. I mean, he's on our team, so it's okay.
Okay. Just want to clear that up before you got out there.
Not that there's a double standard.
Right. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah.
So everybody's got to have.
Do you have my number?
It's a scholarship and an art card.
Tell it to me right now. I'm gonna call you.
Well, wait.
Well, also, I wanted to ask you. Levar wants to get into broadcasting, and he's our intern on our show. Anything that you can help him, like anything with the Spartan Network that needs help with?
We don't have anything, but here's what I would tell you. I mean, I got really lucky because someday I'll tell you how my great broadcast career started at the age of 15, okay? Because I was going to be a high school teacher and coach. That was the dream for me. But at the end of the day, though, you just got to get somebody to open a little door for you and get in there and just hang with it. And it's going to be hard because there's going to be no money. And you're going to wonder if you're ever going to get a shot. But at the end of the day, if somebody is your champion, you get in the door. And we've scaled back, but we have one young person, for example, we brought in who we thought had great skill, and we just worked with him, and he's going to be a rock star someday. And so there's a lot of opportunity, and you just got to keep looking for that little door to get into, because it's really important. And I tried to think of my darkest days when I wondered if I would ever have a steak again the rest of my life, or would my whole meal consumption be a hamburger from McDonald's. But at the end of the day, I said to myself way back, I didn't want to be that guy that woke up someday and wish I would have had done this. I hear it a lot. Very successful guys in business said, God, I wish I wouldn't have got out of radio.
And I gave him some advice because he was going for this one job at this one place, and they canceled on us, and they canceled on him. And I told him, that's going to happen. And I called it, and I said, that happens in radio. It happens in life.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's like I've been at this since '94. I mean, Marvin is.
Here's one for you.
Marvin has seen me drive up to a football game that we were playing with the station vehicle, and everybody's going, "Are they here?" No, he just works for them.
So get this. Here's one to make you feel better. So I got a full-time radio job, and my big break came when I got to Chicago. That was my big break. And so anyway, but I'm working at this place, not making much. And the guy says, "Well, they're paying